This conference will now be recorded.
Good morning. Today's topic is pupillary reflexes and their abnormalities. What is the function of the pupil? Most important function also, it is aperture present in the iris. So what are the functions of the pupil? It limits the amount of light reaching the retina. It controls the spherical and chromatic aberrations. Number one, location at the center of the iris. Size of the pupil is 3 to 4 mm diameter. Shape is circular. Color normally grayish black in color. Jet black in aphakia. White colored pupil is seen in various ocular conditions. Most important function of the pupil is it limits the amount of light reaching the retina. So if the pupil is dilated in mydriatics like atropine or hometropine, what will happen? There will be severe glare. You cannot see in daylight. You cannot ride a bike or you cannot ride a car. That is the most important problem if the pupil is dilated. The amount of light entering is very high, so it is not controlled. So there will be difficulty in seeing the bright light if it is dilated. So the most important function is it limits the amount of light entering the retina or reaching the retina. It also controls the spherical and chromatic aberrations. Normal size is 3 to 4 mm. It is circular in shape. Color is grayish black in color. Jet black in aphakia. Muscles controlling the pupil: sphincter pupillae muscle and dilator pupillae muscle. Sphincter pupillae muscle constricts the pupil. It is supplied by the parasympathetic fibers through the third nerve. Dilator pupillae muscle dilates the pupil and it is supplied by the cervical sympathetic. Cervical sympathetic, where do they originate? They originate from the cervical sympathetic ganglion. So the most important function is dilator pupillae is dilate the pupil. Sphincter pupillae is constrict the pupil. Sphincter pupillae is supplied by the parasympathetic fibers through the third nerve. What is the normal light reflex? When light is thrown into one eye, both the pupils constrict. Constriction of the pupil in which you throw the light is called the direct light reflex, and constriction of the pupil other eye pupil is called indirect light reflex. When you throw light into one eye, there is constriction of pupils of the both eyes. The light in which eye, if we throw the light in right eye, that pupil constricts. It is called direct light reflex. And the pupil of the other eye constricts. It is called indirect light reflex. Right reflex pathway consists of afferent pathway and efferent pathway. What is the afferent pathway of light reflex? What is the afferent pathway of light reflex? So this is the afferent pathway. Retina, rods and cones are present in the retina. Through the rods and cones, light enters the retinal ganglion cells. From the ganglion cells originate the axons of the optic nerve. So from rods and cones, light enters the retinal ganglion cells, and through the axons of the ganglion cells, they form the optic nerve. So it travels along the optic nerve. The nasal fibers, they decussate. The nasal fibers of the retina, they decussate the optic chiasma and reach the optic tract of the opposite side. Whereas temporal fibers, they travel on the same side and reach the optic tract, lateral geniculate body, optic radiation, pretectal nucleus. This is the Edinger-Westphal nucleus. Edinger-Westphal nucleus is the nucleus of the third nerve. It is one of the parts of the nucleus of the third nerve. This is the pathway of light reflex. One is afferent pathway. Afferent pathway means through which the light enters. Different pathway means through which the reflex comes. Pupillary reflex comes. Again, that is different pathway. These are the fibers. Afferent pathway is layer of rods and cones. From the layers of rods and cones, light enters through the ganglion cell, through the axons of the optic nerve, reaches the optic nerve. From there, it reaches the optic chiasma. From the optic chiasma, it reaches the both the sides. The pretectal nucleus of right eye, it sends fibers to the Edinger-Westphal nucleus of both right and left side, both right and left side. Similarly, there is the pretectal nucleus of left side. It sends the internal fibers to both right side and left side. So this is the anatomy. This is the pathway of afferent pupillary defect. Layer of rods and cones, retinal ganglion cells to the axons of the optic nerve. The nasal fibers, these are the nasal fibers, they deposit at the optic chiasma and they reach the optic nerve of the opposite side. Where the temporal fibers, they travel along the same side and in the optic chiasma form the optic tract, reaches the lateral geniculate body and reach the pretectal nucleus. This is the pretectal. I have already told you it reaches the pretectal nucleus. From pretectal nucleus, it reaches the Edinger to the international fibers. It reaches the Edinger-Westphal nucleus of the both sides. This is the afferent pathway. The layer of rods and cones. From there, it reaches the axons, ganglion cells. Axons of the ganglion cells, they form the optic nerve. From the optic nerve, they reach the optic chiasma and optic tract, lateral geniculate body, pretectal nucleus. Pretectal nucleus is connected with the Edinger-Westphal nucleus of the both sides, which is a part of the third nerve complex, nuclear complex. Edinger-Westphal nucleus is the part of the third nerve nuclear complex. Here, Edinger-Westphal nucleus, pretectal nucleus to the Edinger-Westphal nucleus is a part of third nerve nucleus. This is the afferent pathway. Different pathway includes that this is the Edinger-Westphal nucleus. This is the fibers, inferior division of the third nerve. Fibers of the inferior division of the third nerve. This is the ciliary ganglion. This is the short ciliary nerves. This is the afferent pathway. From Edinger-Westphal nucleus, the light reflex travels through the inferior division of the third nerve to the ciliary ganglion. To the ciliary ganglion, short ciliary nerves. Via short ciliary nerves, it reaches the sphincter pupillae and constitutes the pupil. This is the afferent pathway. Afferent pathway is ganglion cells of the retina. From there, rods and cones to the ganglion cells to the axons of the retina. Axons of the optic nerve. From there to the optic chiasma, to the optic tract, to the lateral geniculate body and optic radiation, and there to the pretectal nucleus. Pretectal nucleus is connected with the Edinger-Westphal nucleus of both sides by the international fiber. That is the afferent pathway. From Edinger-Westphal nucleus, which is the part of the third nerve nucleus complex, it is another part of the nucleus complex of third nerve, to the inferior division of the third nerve. It reaches the afferent reflex reaches through the ciliary ganglion. From the ciliary ganglion, it enters the reflex enters the short ciliary nerve. From short ciliary nerve to the reflex enters the sphincter pupillae and causes constriction of the pupil. This is the pathway of light reflex. One is the afferent pathway and the second one is the afferent pathway. This is the afferent pathway. This is the afferent pathway. Different pathway is Edinger-Westphal nucleus. This blue one is the inferior division of the third nerve. It reaches the ciliary ganglion. From the ciliary ganglion, this is the short ciliary nerve. From short ciliary nerve, fibers reaches the sphincter pupillae, reflex reaches the sphincter pupillae and causes the constriction of the pupil. This is the different pathway of reflex. Previous one is the afferent pathway. Next one is near reflex. Near reflex consists of convergence reflex and accommodation reflex. Convergence reflex means convergence of the visual axis and associated constriction of the pupil. Accommodation reflex means increased accommodation and associated constriction of the pupil. Near reflex consists of increased accommodation, convergence of the visual axis and constriction of the pupil. This is the triad of near reflex. Increased accommodation, convergence of the visual axis and constriction of the pupils is a triad of near reflex. So convergence reflex pathway. This is the medial rectus muscle. Fibers from the medial rectus, they reach the third nerve, oculomotor nerve. This is the oculomotor nerve. From there, it reaches the mesencephalic nucleus. Mesencephalic nucleus, it reaches the pontine region of the both sides. From pontine nucleus, it reaches the Wedinger-Westerfeld nucleus to the both sides. From Wedinger-Westerfeld nucleus, they relay in the accessory ciliary ganglion. This is the accessory from the Wedinger-Westerfeld nucleus. It reaches the accessory ciliary ganglion. Accessory ciliary ganglion to the sphincter pupillae of the both sides. So it causes convergence. So this is the convergence reflex. The fibers which originate from the medial rectus reach the third nerve. Along the third nerve, oculomotor nerve, they reach the mesencephalic nucleus of the fifth nerve. From mesencephalic nucleus, it reaches the pontine nucleus. Pontine nucleus, it reaches the reflex, reaches the Wedinger-Westerfeld nucleus. From Wedinger-Westerfeld nucleus, it reaches the accessory ganglion of both sides. Accessory ciliary ganglion. This is the accessory ciliary ganglion. From accessory ciliary ganglion, the fiber reaches the sphincter pupil. This is the convergence reflex pathway. Accommodation reflex pathway. From the retina, the accommodative reflex via the optic nerve reaches the optic chiasma to the lateral geniculate body. From the lateral geniculate body, it reaches the striate cortex. This is the striate cortex. From the striate cortex, it reaches the parastriate cortex. From parastriate cortex, it reaches the pontine center. This is the pontine center. From the pontine center, it reaches the Wedinger-Westerfeld nucleus, and around the third nerve, it reaches the sphincter pupil. This is the pathway of accommodation reflex. How will you test the near reflex? First, you should ask the patient to look at the distant target. Then the examiner holds up the target containing fine detail approximately 25 centimeters from the patient. Then ask the patient to look at the near target, which is at a distance of 25 centimeters for pupillary constriction. So you should note the speed of constriction and the roundness of each pupil. So this is the near reflex. First, you should ask the patient to look at the distance object. Then you should ask the patient, this is the target at 25 centimeters, to look at the near object. You should look for the size of the pupil, shape of the pupil, and constriction of the pupil. You can see when on seeing a distance object, the both eyes are diverted. They are in a straight axis. The pupils are dilated, and looking at a near object, both eyes are converged. This is the convergence reflex. Both eyes are converged, and pupils are constricted. You can see the constriction of the pupil. This is on looking at the distance object. This picture is second picture is on looking at a near object. You can see that the eyes are converged here. There is convergence of the eyes and constriction of the pupil in both eyes. This is the near reflex. On looking at a distance object, the eyes are aligned straight and pupils are dilated. And looking at a near object at a distance of 25 centimeters, the eyes are converged and pupils are constricted. You can see here the size of the pupil, difference in the size of the pupil. Pupils are constricted here, both eyes, and eyes are converged. They are aligned medially. Convergence means they are aligned medially. Divergence means they are aligned laterally. First, on looking at a distant object, the eyes are in a straight axis. And looking at a near object, they are converged and constricted. That is the near reflex. Disclosure reflex. It is a non-specific term. There is associated meiosis with blinking. Constricts of the pupil translated blinking, absent in darkness. Homolateral meiosis with lid closure. Constricts with the post-prohibited lid closure. That is lid closure reflex. Abnormalities of pupillary reflexes. Hemorrhagic pupil includes complete retinal or optic nerve lesion. It leads to total blindness. There is complete absence of the ipsilateral direct and contralateral consensual right reflex. In hemorrhagic pupil, there is complete absence of the ipsilateral direct and contralateral consensual light reflex. And isochoria in diffuse illumination, near reflex is usually present. This is hemorrhagic pupil. This is occurs in the lesions of the optic nerve or regions of the retina. There is total blindness. There is complete absence of the ipsilateral direct and contralateral consensual light reflex. Isochoria is present in diffuse illumination and near reflex is present. That is hemorrhagic pupil. What is RAPD? Relative apparent pupillary defect. The other name for relative apparent pupillary defect is Marcus gun pupil. So if you throw a light, instead of constriction, dilatation, there will be constriction of the pupil. Here the patient, there is light is thrown in the affected eye. Instead of dilatation, there will be constriction of the, instead of constriction, there will be dilatation of the pupil. That is called RAPD. RAPD causes reduction in the pupillary construction when one eye is stimulated by light compared with the opposite eye stimulated by the light. There will be reduction in the pupillary construction. That is called RAPD. The paradoxical response of the affected light can be elicited by swinging flashlight step. Asymmetrical differences in the retina appear or optic nerve appearance may occur. The lesions of the optic nerve will cause RAP related to apparent pupillary defect, and the test for that is swinging flashlight test. You should throw light alternatively from one eye to the other eye like this. So instead of constriction, there will be dilatation of the pupil. That is for related to apparent pupillary defect or Marcus gun pupil. So you can see here there is dilatation of the pupil in left eye more when compared with the right eye here. It is somewhat more dilated. That is called relative apparent pupillary defect. When you are throwing alternatively the light from other eye to the other eye, that is swinging flashlight test. The eye in which you want to elicit the response, there is more dilatation when compared with the right eye. That relatively more dilatation is called relative apparent pupillary defect. You are comparing with the other eye, that is why it is called relative apparent pupillary defect. Here you can see there is relatively more dilatation when compared with the right eye. 1 mm more dilatation is present. That is called RAPD. The test for RAPD is swinging flashlight test. Grading of RAPD: a weak initial pupillary constriction followed by greater redilatation is grade 1. Grade 2 is initial pupillary stall followed by greater redilatation. Here it is pupillary constriction. There is constriction of the pupil. Grade 2 means pupillary stall. It is not constricted. It is just like that. Then it is followed by redilatation. That is grade 2. Grade 3 is immediate pupillary dilatation. There is no constriction or no stall, but immediately on throwing the light, there is pupillary dilatation. And grade 4, immediate pupillary dilatation following 6 seconds of illumination. Grade 5 is immediate pupillary dilatation with no constriction of the pupil. There is no pupillary constriction. There is permanent dilatation of the pupil with no constriction of the pupil. It is called grade 5. These are the grades of RAPD. Grading of RAPD. The weak test for RAPD is swinging flashlight test. You throw light continuously, alternatively from one eye to the other eye. There will be relatively more dilatation of the pupil when compared with the other eye. That is called relative apparent pupillary defect or Marcus gun pupil. That is the test for lesions of the optic nerve or retina. And grading, grade 1 is weak initial pupillary constriction followed by greater redilatation. Grade 2 is stall. There is no constriction. There is stall. The pupil will stop like that. Constriction means it will constrict like that. Stall means on throwing the light, it will be like that only. There is no constriction, followed by greater redilatation. Grade 3 is immediate, instead of constriction, there is immediate pupillary dilatation. Grade 4 is immediate dilatation following 6 seconds of illumination. Grade 5 is immediate pupillary dilatation with no constriction. There is no constriction of the pupil. There is permanent dilatation of the pupil. Immediate pupillary dilatation with no constriction at all is called grade 5 RAPD. These are the grades of RAPD. Causes of RAPD includes optic neuritis, anterior ischemic optic neuropathy, compressive optic neuropathy, glaucoma, optic nerve tumors, arterial diseases, ischemic retinal diseases like CRAO, CRVO, BRAO, and BRAO, ocular ischemic syndrome, central serous retinopathy or cystoid macular edema, retinal detachment, optic chiasma compression, lesions of the optic tract, post-geniculate damage, and midbrain tectal damage. They are the causes of RAPD. Most important is you should remember optic neuritis. For you to tell what is the cause for RAPD, if the examiner asks, you should tell optic neuritis is the cause for RAPD. This is the most important. Optic neuritis and anterior ischemic optic neuropathy. You can tell other if you remember, but you should definitely tell optic neuritis. Optic neuritis is the most important cause for RAPD. Other causes are anterior ischemic optic neuropathy, compressive optic neuropathy, glaucoma, tumors of the optic nerve, arterial diseases, CREO, CRVO, BRVO, ocular ischemic syndrome, central serous retinopathy, cystoid macular edema, retinal detachment, chiasma compression, optic tract lesions, post-geniculate damage, and midbrain tectal damage. These are all the causes for RAPD, but we should definitely remember optic neuritis. Any lesions of the optic nerve will cause glaucoma is also disease of the optic nerve, chronic progressive optic neuropathy. So, any lesions of the optic nerve will cause RAPD. The most important is optic neuritis or lesions of the optic nerve. That is the most important cause for RAPD. Wernicke semianal pupil, it indicates the lesions of the optic tract. If ipsilateral direct and consensual light reflex is absent when light is thrown on the temporal half of the retina on the affected side and nasal half of the retina on the opposite side. Both ipsilateral direct and consensual light reflex are absent when light is thrown on the temporal half of the retina on the affected side and nasal half of the retina on the opposite side. That is called Wernicke's hemianoptic pupil. Anisocoria means difference in the size of the pupils. If the difference in the size of the pupils is more than 0.4 mm or greater, it is called anisocoria. It may be a sign of ocular or neurological disease. It should be considered as a neurological emergency if a patient has anisocoria with acute onset of third nerve palsy. If the anisocoria is associated with acute onset of third nerve palsy and associated with headache or trauma, you should consider as a neurological emergency. There is association of anisocoria with third nerve palsy and association with headache or trauma, you should consider as a neurological emergency. You should refer to the neurologist. There is the anisocoria associated with third nerve palsy and it is associated with headache or trauma, you should refer the patient to the neurologist. That is a neurological emergency, neurosurgical emergency. The difference in pupillary size in both dark light and dim light is constant. That is called physiological or essential anisocoria. The difference, it is only physiological, it is not pathological. The difference is same, anisocoria difference is same in both bright light and dim light. It is called physiological anisocoria. It helps to differentiate the localized lesion to parasympathetic and sympathetic pathway. You can differentiate the lesion whether it is lesion is in the parasympathetic pathway or sympathetic pathway. but does not localize the lesion within those pathways. Efferent pathways are not affected. Anisocoria is not due to the lesion of the efferent pathway. A lesion in the midbrain produces subtle and transient anisocoria. Transient means a few seconds. Anisocoria is very small and it is only transient. A lesion of the midbrain produces subtle and transient anisocoria. However, most neurological causes of anisocoria involve lesions in the parasympathetic and sympathetic. The most important cause for anisocoria is lesions of the sympathetic and parasympathetic pupillary pathways. Midbrain lesions produces transient anisocoria. Physiological anisocoria means there is no difference in the size of the pupil in dim light and dark light. That is called physiological anisocoria. Lesions of the sympathetic and parasympathetic pathways produces significant anisocoria. Efferent pupillary pathways lesions do not produce anisocoria. That is evaluation of anisocoria. The large pupil is abnormal. It is not constricting. There is poor constriction. The anisocoria is greatest in the bright illumination. If the anisocoria is greatest in the bright illumination, this is caused by the disruption of the parasympathetic pathway. The anisocoria is great in bright illumination. It indicates the lesions of the parasympathetic pathway. The smaller pupil is abnormal. Poor dilatation. Anisocoria is great in the dark illumination. It indicates the lesion of the sympathetic pathway. The anisocoria is greater in dark illumination. It indicates the lesions of the sympathetic pathway. The anisocoria is greater in the bright illumination. It indicates the lesion of the parasympathetic pathway. The anisocoria is greater in the dark light. It indicates the sympathetic lesions of the sympathetic pupillary pathway. These are the disorders characterized by anisocoria. Horner syndrome is the most important cause for anisocoria. Eddie's atonic pupil, Thornhill palsy, adrenergic mydriasis, anticholinergic mydriasis, Argyll-Robertson pupil, localized iris diseases like sphincter atrophy, posterior synechia, pseudoexfoliation syndrome, Hutchinson's pupil, Gernand syndrome. These are all the causes for anisocoria. Horner syndrome, Eddie's atonic pupil, Thornhill palsy, adrenergic mydriasis, anticholinergic mydriasis, Argyll-Robertson pupil. Argyll-Robertson pupil means light reflex is lost and accommodation reflex is present. That is Argyll-Robertson pupil. Eddie's atonic pupil, the most important cause of Eddie's atonic pupil is neurosyphilis. Midbrain lesion causes Eddie's atonic pupil. Localized iris diseases like sphincter atrophy, posterior synechia, and pseudoexfoliation syndrome also causes anisocoria. Hutchinson's pupil and Gernand syndrome. These are all the causes for anisocoria. Horner syndrome, oculosympathetic paresis. The other name for Horner syndrome is oculosympathetic paresis. There will be meiosis, ptosis. What is the meaning of meiosis? Constriction of pupil. Ptosis means drooping of the eyelid. Anhidrosis means absence of setting. Apparent anophthalmos. There will be inward. The eyeball will be pushed inward. That is called anophthalmos. Proptosis means eyeball is pushed outwards. If the eyeball is pushed inwards, it is called anophthalmos. Meiosis, constriction of the pupil. Ptosis, drooping of the eyelid. Anhidrosis means absence of sweating. Anophthalmos means there will be eyeball is gone inside the orbit. Proptosis is outside the orbit. Anophthalmos means it has gone inside the orbit. There are the clinical signs of Horner syndrome: oculosympathetic meiosis, ptosis, anhidrosis, apparent anophthalmos. These are the clinical features of this. Here you can see this is the right eye, left eye. In which eye you can see meiosis? Right eye there is constriction of the pupil. Left eye it is dilated. In right eye there is meiosis or constriction of the pupil. There is drooping of the eyelid. Here you can see. And compared to the left eye, the eyelid is slightly downwards in right eye. There is also constriction of the pupil. Symptoms, difference in size of the pupils. You can see the difference. This is the small pupil, this is the large pupil. There is also drooping of the eyelid, often asymptomatic. Anisocoria is more in dark illumination than bright illumination. Myotic pupil with intact light and near reactions. Mild ptosis less than 2 mm due to weakness of the Muller's muscle. Reverse ptosis means lower lid elevation on the same side. You can see here also. Lower lid is elevated. Here you can see this amount of clear sclera in between the limbus and the lid. See here, there is no clear sclera. Almost the lower lid is attached to the limbus. That is reverse ptosis. Other characteristics include heterochromia. You can see heterochromia also. Here it is light in color. The eye which is involved, the iris is light in color. Here the iris is dark in color. Increased amplitude of accommodation, ocular hypotenuse. They are all the features of Horner syndrome. Difference in size of the pupils. You can see there is a difference in size of pupil in right eye and left eye. Right eye it is smaller. You can see the ptosis of the right eye, inverse ptosis of the right eye. There is also the iris is light colored, here it is bright colored. Heterochromia of the iris, increased amplitude of accommodation, ocular hypotenuse. They are all the features. Anisocoria, dark illumination is more than light illumination. Myotic pupil with intact light and near reactions. Mild ptosis less than 2 mm due to weakness of the Muller's muscle. Reverse ptosis, there is afferent and ophthalmos. There is also the eyeball is slightly inwards. You can see here, it is slightly forward, it is slightly inwards. These are all the features of Horner syndrome. Oculosympathetic first. First order, there are causes for first order, second order, third order. First order is Arnold-Chiari malformation. Second order is Pancoast tumor. Third order is internal carotid artery dissection. First order, the cause of first order is basal meningitis or syphilis, or basal skull tumors or pituitary tumors. The other cause is cerebral vascular accident, demyelinating disease, example, multiple sclerosis, intrapontine hemorrhage, neck trauma. All these conditions cause first order Horner syndrome, first degree. Second order, Pancoast tumor, birth trauma with injury to the lower brachial plexus, aneurysm or dissection of the aorta, subclavian or common carotid artery, lymphadenopathy due to Hodgkin's disease, leukemia, tuberculosis, and mediastinal tumors, central venous catheterization, mandibular tooth abscess, neuroblastoma. All these conditions cause second order. They're all the causes of second order. Third order includes internal carotid artery dissection, carotid cavernous fistula, Rader syndrome, and episiotomy. They are all causes of third order Horner syndrome. I already told you, Argyll-Robertson pupil occurs in neurosyphilis and Trebbi's palsy. The site of the lesion is dorsal midbrain in the region of tectum near the sylvian aqueduct, interfering with the light reflex fibers. Characteristics include bilateral asymmetric involvement, small irregular pupils, without vision. Light reflex is lost and accommodation reflex or near vision reflex are present. There is loss of light reflex, but near reflex and accommodation reflex is present. Poor dilatation with atropine, further constriction with hyperpigment. There are the features of Argyll-Robertson pupil. There is light reflex is lost, accommodation reflex ARP, accommodation reflex is present. That is a characteristic feature of Argyll-Robertson pupil. It usually occurs in neurosyphilis and Trebbi's dorsalis. The site of the lesion is dorsal midbrain, small irregular pupils with normal vision, absent light reflex, and presence of accommodation reflex. There is poor dilatation with atropine. These are all the features of Argyll-Robertson. Reddish-stony pupil, large unilaterally dilated pupil. You can see which eye there is large unilaterally dilated pupil. Left eye, you can see here. Large unilaterally dilated pupil. Absence of poor light response. In near response, there is slow or tonic constriction of the iris, may be associated with loss of deep tendon reflexes of the knee. Seen in any woman, mild regional, there is impaired sensitivity of the cornea. That is the feature of reddish-stony pupil. Large unilaterally dilated pupil Absence are poor light response. There is no light reflex. In near response or near reflex, there is slow tonic construction of the iris. And seeing near object, there is slow construction of the iris. Maybe associated with the loss of deep tendon reflexes of the neck. That is reduced tonic fluid. There are the various pupillary abnormalities, of which reduced tonic pupil, Horner syndrome, Turner palsy, Argyll-Robertson pupil, these are all important for you. RAPD is also very important. The test for RAPD is swinging flashlight test. The other name for Marcus gun pupil are RAPD. So pathway of pupillary pathway and pupillary reflexes is completed. Okay. This is the afferent pathway, and this is the efferent pathway. Efferent pathway includes rods and cones, ganglion cells, axons of the ganglion cells, optic nerve. Axons of the ganglion cells form the optic nerve. From the optic nerve reaches the optic chiasma. From there it reaches the optic tract. From there it reaches the lateral geniculate body, optic radiation. From there it reaches the pretectal nucleus. From the pretectal nucleus, international fibers connect the Edinger-Westervall nucleus of both sides. That is the efferent pathway. Different pathway from Edinger-Westervall nucleus to the inferior division of third nerve reaches the ciliary ganglia. From there, the postganglionic fibers, they are short ciliary fibers. Preganglion fibers is inferior division of third nerve. Postganglionic fibers is short ciliary nerve, reaches the pupillary muscle. Causes constriction of pupil. That is the different pathway. Efferent pathway, light reflex consists of efferent pathway and efferent pathway. This one is the convergence reflex. This is RAPD. Instead of constriction, there is relative dilatation of the pupil when compared with the other eye, that is on swinging flashlight. Here you can see left eye, it is more dilated when compared with the right eye. That is relative efferent pupillary defect. It is a lesion of the optic nerve causes RAPD. These are the causes. Optic neuritis is the most important. Any lesion of the optic nerve will cause RAPD. These are the causes for anisocoria, Horner syndrome, reduced tonic pupil, third nerve palsy, Wernicke-Sammy and Argyll-Robertson pupil, anticholinergic drugs, adrenergic drugs, Parkinson's pupil, Bernard syndrome. These are all the causes for anisocoria. Anisocoria means difference in the size of the pupils is called anisocoria. Tonic pupil, damage to the ciliary ganglion or short ciliary nerve produce tonic pupil, which is characterized by affected pupil is larger, reaction to light is absent, light reaction is absent, near reflex is very slow and tonic. There is also accommodation process. There is cholinergic photosensitivity, constricts with 0.125% of pilocarpine, while normal pupil. Low concentration of pilocarpine causes constriction of tonic pupil. The normal pupil does not constrict with the low concentration of pilocarpine. Causes include epiphyseal ganglionitis, orbital and choroidal trauma or tumors, blunt trauma resulting in injury to the iris root, neuropathy, diabetic mellitus, alcoholism, reduced tonic pupil. They are the causes for tonic pupil, reduced tonic pupil. Damage to the ciliary ganglia and short ciliary nerve produce tonic pupil. It is characterized by large pupil on the affected side, absent right reflex, absence of very slow near reflex. There is also paralysis of the accommodation, and there is also cholinergic supersensitivity. There is increased sensitivity to low concentration of pilocarpine, whereas normal pupil does not respond to low concentration of phyllocarbon. 0.125% is low concentration of phyllocarbon. If response, 20 people respond, there is increased constriction of the pupil to 0.125% phyllocarbon. That is called supersensitivity. There is no constriction of the pupil in normal patient, normal people. The causes include herpes zoster, orbital and choroidal tumors, blunt trauma, diabetes mellitus, alcoholism. They are all causes for chronic people. Light near dissociation refers to any situation in which pupillary near reaction is present, and light reaction is absent. Light near dissociation means near reaction is present and light reaction is absent. Bilateral complete efferent pathway defect. The cause for light near dissociation is bilateral complete efferent pathway defect. Lesion in the midbrain at the level of pretectal area. Third nerve palsy with degeneration of middle rectus innervation to sphincter and innervation pathway. That is called pseudo-Argyll-Robertson pupil. Ciliary ganglion, short ciliary nerve with regeneration of accommodation fibers into the sphincter pupil. Aberrant regeneration in diabetes mellitus, alcoholism, and amyloidosis. The causes for light near dissociation. That is, pupillary near reaction is present and light reaction is absent. Pupillary near reflex is present and light reflex is absent. This is called light near dissociation. Bilateral complete efferent pathway defect is the most important cause for light near dissociation. Lesions of the midbrain at the level of pretectal area also cause light near dissociation. Third nerve palsy with regeneration of middle rectus innervation into sphincter innervation pathway. That is called pseudo-Argyll-Robertson pupil. Ciliary ganglion lesions and aberrant regeneration in diabetes mellitus and alcoholism and amyloidosis also causes light near dissociation. This is Arnold syndrome, where you can see ptosis, constriction of the pupil, and reverse ptosis or inverse ptosis. There is also heterochromia of the iris. The iris in the affected eye is lighter in color and anophthalmos. There is also anitosis, means loss of specking on the affected side. The eyeball is somewhat gone inside the orbit. That is called anophthalmos. This is Arnold syndrome. Okay. With this, pathway of pupillary reflexes and abnormalities of pupillary reflexes is completed. Okay.